Hi guys, thanks for joining me. On a recent video that I made for YouTube, I cut out a brown leather, some teardrop shaped earrings, and then I cut some little tiny crosses out of a rose gold foil HTV. It's beautiful. But when I went to adhere the foil to the leather, it wouldn't work. And I tried multiple things. I tried increasing the temperature. I tried increasing the time that I was pressing them. I tried to wait longer before trying to pull the carrier sheet off because it's a cold peel, and nothing worked. And so I got frustrated and I deleted the video. So after I did that, I did some research and I learned that there's a product called leather deglosser or leather deglazer, but I don't have a store near me that would sell that, and I really didn't want to spend the money on it. And so I got just some good old-fashioned alcohol off my shelf, sprayed it on the leather, wiped it off, and it worked like a charm. I assume that in the manufacturing process that some residue was left on the leather, or possibly after they dyed the leather, they applied conditioner to it. I don't really know, but what I do know is I could not get the HTV to stick. I used alcohol and then it did just fine. I was inspired by a Louis Vuitton purse on the pattern that I did. I've never bought anything Louis Vuitton, but I've seen the purses and they have the small repeating patterns and I like that. So that's what I did. Now, since I deleted the video, on tonight's video, I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to start with the design. I'll cut the leather, I'll cut the HTV, I'll clean the leather, I'll adhere it. I'll go through the whole process. I'll also put in the description below everything that I use in this video. Before I start designing the earrings though, I'll turn the camera around and I'll show you really close and personal what went wrong with these, and then we'll get started on a new pair. If you find anything in this video helpful, inspiring, or you just enjoy watching it, please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, maybe you've run into this issue and you found another solution, leave it in the comment section. And if you'd like to see what I'll be working on in the future, hit the subscribe button. Then if you tap the bell, YouTube should notify you when I upload new content. So if you want to make earrings with me, read the description, gather all your supplies, and let's get started. Before I go any further in the video, I want to show you the things that I was frustrated about. The main thing was, during the video, I could not get the foil to stick to the leather. I pressed and I repressed, and in the process, I don't know if you can see it, but I marred the leather. I think that was where the transfer sheet was cut. I didn't leave enough of it on, and with so many pressings and the heat, I left this little line. The other thing is, by the time I was able to get the foil to stick, I had put so much heat on it for so long that you can see a little bit of the adhesive oozed out from underneath the foil. I don't know if that shows up, but I can see it. They don't look bad, but it just wasn't good. The first thing that I want to do is I want to find my teardrop shape. So I'm going to click on Images, and then right now it's filtering on my images. This is the cross that I used before. I love it. I think it's very simple and rustic and beautiful. But on my earrings, it's so small that these points and the way it flares just gets lost, and then it just looks kind of sloppy. And so instead, I want to go with just your basic cross. So I'll insert that, and then I'll go back and do what I said I was going to do, and I'll find my teardrop shaped earring, and it's right here. Okay, so I'm going to make my earring 2.25 inches tall, and I'll go ahead and turn it brown. And then my cross, this is a cross that I just found online. It was free, but I think it has some issues. Let me make it large so you can see. See how the top isn't really straight? And I think it's awfully tall for as narrow as it is. And so I could clean this up by slicing off that and slicing off the bottom down here, but I also feel like there's something wrong with the bar going across, or with the piece of wood that would be going across. So I'm just going to build my own cross. I'll click on Shapes, and I'll get a square. I need to unlock it so I can make it more narrow. I want to keep it fairly fat because the crosses are so small that we need some bulk to it. So let's start with this shape. And then I'm going to go ahead and duplicate and then turn it so it's 90 degrees. Okay, now obviously that's way too short, so I'm going to unlock it, and then right now let's go and change it right here. Instead of being 3.125, I'm going to start with 5 inches. Now that actually doesn't look bad. I think that should go up just a little bit. Okay, let me get rid of the other cross. And now I'll work with this one. The last thing I need to do is select both pieces of this cross. So I have the up and down selected. I'm going to hit Command on my Mac and select this piece. And then I want to align and center horizontally. Okay, that makes sure it's very symmetrical. Now both shapes are still selected, so now I'll click on Weld. So I'm going to use this as my cross. I'll change it a golden color since I'm using rose gold. And there we go. So I'm going to go back to the dimensions. I just wanted it really large to see the detail. But now I'm going to go back and say I want 0.35 inches tall. And it looks tiny, but it has to be to get so many crosses on one earring. And then I'll duplicate this 6 times for a total of 7 crosses. Now let's make this screen larger so we can really see what we're doing. All right, I want to start with the 3 crosses in the middle. And I want it to be much more toward the bottom of the cross than the top, because the top really is for putting my fishhook through it. And if I started this high, it'd be hard to fit a cross right here and for it to look right. So I'm going to move these down. So I want to do 2 things with those crosses, actually 3. The first thing I want to do is I want to select all of them, and I want to align them by saying center horizontally. Okay, so they're lined up. Now I want to add in the selection my teardrop. And again, I could have done this all in one step. I don't know why I didn't. Center everything horizontally. And then the last thing, let me get rid of the selection of the teardrop. I'll select the top, the middle, and the bottom cross. And then this feature's pretty slick. You click on a line and then say distribute vertically. That way you know there's the same amount of space from the bottom of that cross to the top of this one as there is from the bottom to the top of this one. So let's distribute vertically. Okay, I didn't really see much movement, but now I know they're where they need to be. And I actually am going to move them down just a little bit more. And so just to be a perfectionist, I'll click on the teardrop, align center horizontally again. Yes, it had shifted. It moved over just a little bit. So now I'm just going to kind of start playing with the rest of the crosses. In the earring that I made before, I had the two side crosses lining up perfectly on top of each other, and I really think that this one here needs to be moved a little further to the side since it's so much wider down here. I think that's going to look better. Okay, so I need to move that up just a little bit, I think. And then I'll move that one up a little bit. And move that one over just a little bit. Just play with it until you get it kind of where you like it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, here's what I want to do to finish though. I want to select this left cross and this right cross, and I want to make sure they're aligned at the bottom. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and attach those because I'm going to keep them selected and add, I'm going to find it over here, add my teardrop to it. So now really the only things that are selected are the teardrop and these two crosses here. And I'm going to click Align and Center Horizontally. Okay, moved them a little bit. So we're going to click that one, and let's align them on the bottom. And then let's say all I did was add the teardrop to it, and I say Align and Center Horizontally. Look what happens. Boop, they all go to the middle. And I don't want that. Now let's see what happens if I group them. And then I add the teardrop to it. Align, center horizontally. Okay, that worked. So you can attach it or group them and it'll work. Okay, we're going to call that good. I like that. So now I want to, first of all, I'm just going to hide my teardrop so that I can select all of these and attach them. Here's what would happen if you didn't. You click on Make It and they just line up. They go where they want to. That's the most efficient use of space on the mat. So I'll click all the crosses. I'll attach them. I'm going to go ahead and add the teardrop back. Now I'll select everything and I'll duplicate. And now we're finally ready to send that to the maker. So I'll click on Make It, and I have two layers. I have my brown, which is going to be my brown leather, so I'm going to move it down some. Often I'll go 2 inches down and 2 inches over, so I remember exactly where to put my leather and have room to add tape around it. In this case, everything is very symmetrical. You don't need to mirror it. It's a good habit to get into if you want to, but you don't need to. And then here are my crosses, and I'll just move them down a little bit. Okay, I can see I have my deep point blade in, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to this layer. I'll click Continue. And then I'm going to find genuine leather. So I'll type in leather and genuine leather. I'll click Done. And it tells me to make sure my star wheels aren't going to roll over my leather. It's asking me if I want default pressure, and I do. I could add more or less. Make sure I have my deep point blade in, and then I'm good to send my material to my maker. When I cut the second layer, I am going to use just a standard grip mat, and then I'll need to change my cut settings to foil iron-on. I'm going to go ahead and place this sticky side up under where the cut will happen. That just helps protect your mat from some fibers. Leather is a pretty messy fabric to work with. So sticky side up, and then here's my leather. So I need it a little bit to the left of 2 inches and a little higher than 2 inches so that I can get some tape around it. You want to really adhere that as well as you can to your transfer tape and to your mat, but leather tends to shift, so I always use extra insurance and I put tape around it. We'll give it one more press against the mat. Okay, let's see what we have. So it's hanging on just by a tiny, you can tell better from the back side. Okay. So it's just barely hanging on by one little piece of leather, and right there again, so I'll snip those loose. Now you want to be careful that you don't have your scissors angled, let's see, this way. So you don't want your scissors angled in where they're going to cut more of the top than the bottom. If anything, you want to angle them this way to start with and then fix it. It's not perfectly rounded there. Let me give it one more little snip. Okay, I like that. On my vinyl, my design is up in the corner, so I need to either move my design over. Okay, let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to put my vinyl down, and you put it with the carrier sheet against the mat. And then you're cutting through the actual foil, and then you weed away what you don't want. So it needs to be carrier sheet side down. Now I am 3.5 inches over, and so on my screen I'm going to go back and I'll click, maybe you can see this, I'm going to highlight that, but I can't go over and move it, so I have to hit edit, then I can move them over where I need to. So I'll go ahead and do that. See, 3.5 inches, I'll go just a little bit more than that. Now I'm going to move those up just a little bit because I'm wasting too much vinyl where I had it. The other thing is I'm going to move the designs apart a little bit because otherwise they'll be side by side and I'll have to cut. And then I'll have the same problem I had before. I won't have enough of the carrier sheet and it'll be going down the middle or the side of the leather and it'll make an impression. Now the other thing is I need to change from genuine leather to foil iron-on, and that is prompting me to use my fine point blade. So I'll go ahead and change out blades. So go ahead and remove the mat. Now, I'm going to have a bit of a problem. You know, I told you to have some excess of the carrier sheet behind it, and I don't here. But I do have an old carrier sheet that I can help kind of place beside it and hold the easy press from jabbing into it. Hopefully, we'll see. So I'm going to have a little excess vinyl over here so that I'll have the back of the carrier sheet to protect the leather. Okay, I grabbed the spare carrier sheet that I have. So to weed this, I'm just going to poke through, grab a corner, and pull it up. Now, while my easy press is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and clean the fronts of these two earrings. Just going to spray a little bit of alcohol on them. And my table. Now dry it off as much as I can. And alcohol evaporates very quickly. So those will be dry in no time whatsoever. They'll be fine to continue working on. Now the other thing is we need to clean up the edges. I'll typically start by burning that off, but since I just put alcohol on it, I probably don't want to do that yet. So for now, I'll go ahead and start by trimming some of the fibers off. Let's see. Again, you want to make sure that your scissors are angled away from the front so you don't accidentally clip off some of that front layer. And you just go around and clip off any of the exposed frays that you see. So right away you see a major difference. And then you add a little heat to that and it helps even more. So that looks pretty clean. There's a little more I could do. Just take your time. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll do the other one off camera. I'm going to use my Easy Press Mini. The interactive guide said that foil on faux leather, it didn't show anything on leather, but foil on faux leather should be on low heat. So it's going to be preheating. I'm going to go ahead and start with one earring. So I'm preheating that for 5 seconds. So I'm going to place it down about like that, but I need to look at it straight on, so I'm going to go ahead and move this so I can check it out. I feel like that is fairly straight. Now, here's where my carrier sheet is too narrow. It doesn't come this way far enough, so my earring's exposed. And that line in my last one, I am just sure that it was from something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add this old carrier sheet right beside it to try to keep that from happening. I'm going to heat this for 30 seconds, light pressure, constant movement, and I will go ahead and fast forward through most of this. Okay, since that's a cold peel, we're going to set that aside. Preheat my second one for 5 seconds. Or about 5 seconds. Now again, I'm going to pick this up so I can really look at it closely, but it is going to look something like that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So my leather is exposed right here. So I'm going to try to just butt that up against it. Actually, I'm going to just do it without anything over it. Oops, I pulled up on that a little bit. Okay. That feels pretty cooled off. Let me see if the foil is going to stay down or not. And you want to go really slowly in case part of it pulls up. You can put it right back down and press it some more. Okay, those stayed down. So now I'm going to go ahead and press it for just about 5 more seconds. Okay, there you go. And what that does is that leaves a little bit of the impression of the Teflon sheet in the foil. So if you don't like that, do not repress it after you take the carrier sheet off. It was very smooth before, except there were a couple little areas that for whatever reason, I don't know if they get bunched up, if they overheat. I really don't know what the issue is, why some of them do that. Let me show you on this earring. See, on this earring, you might be able to see just some little imperfections. That's probably where I started to lift it up. And there's a little bit of imperfections in that. And then adding this carrier sheet over it and repressing, that will hide any of those imperfections. Again, pull it up really slowly so that if anything starts to lift, you can lay it right back down before it pulls it or stretches it or anything like that. So here's what it looks like now. And then about 5 more seconds. Now, hopefully, you can really see the Teflon sheet impression in the crosses. I actually like that, and it really made it much more smooth than before I gave it that second pressing. So here's my earrings. I'll go ahead and put the hardware in them, and then they'll be ready to wear. I have my supplies all handy, and this is a leather punch tool that I got at Harbor Freight, and with a coupon it was somewhere around $6. They often have 20% off coupons. What I want to do is I want to lay the punch part of the tool up against the leather and give it a good looking to see if that's where I want my hole to go. Right now I can see it's too far to the left, so I'll shift it over just a little bit, and then I'm hoping to get by without any jump rings in these. I want my fishhook just to go right into the earring, so it has to be fairly close to the top, but not so close that it's going to rip out on the sides. So let me pull that up to my face so I can see it much better. Okay, I think I have it where I want it, and I told you to put your punch on it, but don't press too hard until you have it exactly where you want it so that you don't leave an impression on it. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'll go ahead and punch it. And there's our first hole. Then I'll just do the same thing on this earring. I'm not sure I got my earring close enough to the top to be able to just use the fishhook, but we will find out. If not, then I can add a jump ring. It's not the end of the world, but I do prefer mine just to hang from the fishhook if I can do that. So you have to find the end of the metal. You can see it goes around that way and it ends over here. So I take my needle nose pliers and hold that side, and then with my thumb I'm just going to hold the rest of it, and then I just twist it open. You don't want to open it outward, you want to twist it. So the moment of truth, let's see if it'll work. It's a little tight, but I think it will. I'm going to go ahead and close it back up and see how it hangs. So again, you just grab in the same place, hold on with your thumb and twist it back. And I think I over twisted it. Let me move that just a little bit more, or under twisted it, I'm not sure, because it's not in the center yet. Okay, that looks better. Now, this does not freely go over the top, and I've seen people do that on YouTube and then they just leave it there. I don't like that. So we are going to add a jump ring. So I'll just twist this back open. These are 6mm. I labeled the bottom 6mm jump rings. I have 4mm, 6mm, and 8mm. Here's a jump ring tool. If you don't have one of these, just use 2 sets of needle nose pliers. That's fine. So you find the opening, and I see it's right up here at the top. Just put the smallest slot you can fit the earring into, or the jump ring into, and then just twist. Okay, I'm going to take my fishhook that I have not twisted around yet and show you what you can do so that you can only use one jump ring. If you don't do this next step, you'll have to add 2 jump rings for it to work out correctly. So I just grab it straight on, the whole thing, and then hold on to my earring and twist it 90 degrees. And then you can kind of check it from the top to make sure it looks like it's 90 degrees. Now, take my jump ring that I opened and I'll place my earring on it. And then make sure I'm facing the right way. And then I'll place my fish hook on it. Then grab a side of your jump, whoops. Okay, let's redo this. There we go. So now you're grabbing the side of your jump ring and then just putting the other side of your jump ring back into this jump ring tool and twisting it back in place. And hopefully that's in the camera and you can see that those met back up just very nicely. It looks like there might be a tiny little gap between them. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not. If there's a tiny gap, just barely press them together. Don't press too hard or you will make your circle an oval. I have done that. All right, so here is our first earring. I'm going to get a new one of these. I will use this for when I have an earring that it'll work in to just put it straight on the earring. But for now, I'm just going to get a new one out. All right, so grab it and just twist it 90 degrees. Try to bend it a little bit. Okay, so doesn't quite look right yet. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so we'll open this up. Place the earring on it. Let's see, figure out which way this needs to go. It needs to go like that. Place that down on it. And then I just need to kind of rearrange my hand and my finger. And then just twist them back together. Oh, that looks great. So then we have our second earring. Kind of hard to make them hang when they're sitting flat. So I will do what I always do. I'll hang them, take a picture of them, and then I'll add it to the video. I think those turned out wonderfully. They're so much better than the last pair, and really the last pair doesn't look so bad, but these are beautiful. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.